the East Coast of the United States. I have no idea what time it is down and under, but it is time for Shiny Side Out with Dave and Mecky. So I hope you have your tinfoil hat all made and cinched down tight over your ears. So take it away, Dave and Mecky.
Welcome to Shiny Side Out with
Dave
and Mecky on WZZR, broadcasting from Australia for Revolution Radio on revolution.radio. I love that. Where it's more than just radio, so jump in the chat room if you can. I'm in there, Dave is in there, everybody's in there, Nighthawk is in there. And this is show number 363, 360 and 300, or 363. We're going to talk about Jesus' lost years. It had to happen, it had to happen. It's on air, online, and on your smart device. So grab an app to listen anywhere or listen at home on a Grace Tabletop Digital Radio. If you missed Solaris' show, bad, I did. All right, shame on you. But you don't have to keep missing it. All it costs is $5.95. You can subscribe to the Freedom Slips archive. You can check out her shows, our shows, every host's show. It's cheap. It's a coffee, right? Well, in Australia, it's a coffee. So just to spend the money, get in the archives, and you can listen to everything that has happened in the past as well. I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land here in Australia. For me, that's the Darug people, and for my esteemed co-host,
it's the Darkinjung.
Beautiful, and we like to pay our respects to elders past, present, and future. But before we get stuck into it, Dave, I believe we have a special guest on the air.
Yeah, the station owner Nighthawk is has the floor.
How you doing?
Good.
Hey, listen to everybody that's listening. Dr. Robin Falkoff. A lot of people are not sure what exactly is going on. She asked me to keep this private 2 years ago. She's been fighting colon cancer for about 2 years. And in her treatment, she contracted this. I don't know where. I contracted the same flu, and several other people I know contracted the same flu, and she contracted this ridiculous flu with a diminished immune system. And so right now she is in hospice. Everyone that I have one person that I talk to that goes to actually see her in her room, and I talked to her 2 weeks ago via a video chat, and that was very hard. But the way it's kind of going right now, she's fading fast. I have an address you could send a card to, but according to the reports, even the U.S. mail system won't get them there fast enough. And she is also now on some pretty heavy drug regimen, which I'm not sure if she could appreciate or read. So I just hope you guys out there understand that, this station itself, is a whole bunch of people that make this station what it is. And that's why we try to keep it going. And, beyond that, any of us could go any day. I don't know what else to say. I'm not good at grief. I'm not good at this kind of stuff.
Nighthawk, what can we do? What can the listeners do to help?
Well, not right now, but coming, after we get past that, I hate lingering. After we get past that, I have set up an account to help, with her. God, I hate to say it. I just, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. With her burial and all that kind of stuff, or anything the family needs. I know her family is pretty well to do, but she is not. And, so sometime next month, I'm going to set up an account to try to help with that kind of stuff. Richard Hoagland has had nothing to say on his posts or anything. I don't know. They're private people. You know, it's
health is usually a very private thing that you go through on your own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. She, you know, I have known that she's been going through this colon cancer thing for a couple of years. But you know, she asked me not to say anything, so I didn't. You know, it's like, you know, I just respected her wishes. So, you know, now we're down to this. So, you know, what can I say?
Well,
that's mostly what I wanted to say. And you know, it's like she's sitting in hospice, looking like a week. You know, according to Wayne, a week or less. I don't know if flowers would do any good. Sending flowers or cards. You know, sending cards because she's not lucid to read a card, and it would be so maybe, you know, if anybody wants to send anything, maybe they should hold up until, oh God, the word after, where it can do some good. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Look, I know what it's like. My daughter's in and out of hospital. And it's if there's anything that we can do, I would suggest maybe I'm not you, Hawk. I like to contribute money because I know that it's very expensive, especially medical care in the US.
Oh yes.
All right. So you know, anyone going through any kind of, you know, backwards and forwards or hospital or hospice even, the bills that add up, even the ones that are usually okay, even those bills, because you're putting money from one place to another place. I would put out there, and maybe we should, you know, help Nighthawk if you're able to provide some details. Just keep your ears to the ground and listen for anything that, you know, any place we can send.
Yeah, I'm thinking about setting up a fund, but you know, it's like if they send it to the station, of course you get the fees and the taxes and all that kind of stuff. And I'm trying to figure out a way to put this out there separately. You know, I don't mind paying the taxes. That's not the big deal. But, you know, it's like for every $100 in that comes to the station, you know, there's 14% that goes out between fees and federal taxes. So, you know, I would much rather all the money get to them instead of just, you know.
Yep, I hear you. Well, I feel so sorry for her and for Richard and having to go through these kinds of things. It's awful. If there's any way that we can help, absolutely let us know.
Oh, hey,
we'll do that.
Hey, by the way, David, how's your daughter doing?
Really tough times. So she's healthy this week and she's healthy today. But she has pulmonary hypertension, which means that her heart is having too much stress pushing the blood through the capillaries in the lungs, and that way that one of her ventricles, because we have 4 of them, or they have 2 halves and 2 quarters. One of the quarters, which is the one that pumps into the lungs, looks like Arnie. It is like Arnie. It's absolutely massive, and so when it's working really hard, she's at risk of heart failure.
Right.
And she had chest pains last weekend, and I rushed to the hospital, and they said that there wasn't any damage to her heart, which is lucky. But this is, I think, our new normal. Mekki and I talk about the new normal all the time. That's when suddenly you're faced with something, and there's a lot of change in your life, but the change doesn't go away.
Right.
So that's really tough. Right? We're lucky in Australia because our medical is almost completely free. Right?
Yeah,
it's not like the US.
You know, here in America, they tried to make medicine free, and all they did was make it worse. I used to be able to afford medical care. Now I can't get it. I can't get it at all. You know, insurance is unbuyable. And I make, you know, and with the Medicare program, they don't go by your net income; they go by your gross income, and it's like my net income is about 20% of my gross income. So, it creates a rather huge problem, for me, and I'm diabetic. I have to, it's like I need to go to the doctor, and I had to put it off for 3 months. It looks like I can go see the doctor in March for my yearly checkup and blood tests, make sure I'm getting the right amount of meds, but I know I'm not. My blood sugar is always 290 or something like that, no matter how much medicine I take. So the medicine they take me, and then if they move me to the next, like Invocare or something like that, I can't even afford it anyway. It's like $300 a shot. I can't afford that.
Yeah, I hear that. Look, we have oxygen bottles sent to our house. My daughter sleeps with oxygen, and she has 2 different kinds of medication. And one of them, if we were just to buy it from the store without, it would be $400 for a month. And that doesn't sound like very much in the world, but when it's supplied by the hospital, it's $40. That's some crazy numbers, right? That I don't even know how they can justify it. But we have a thing called the PBS, which is the Pharmaceutical Benefit Scheme, which means that if you require it to live, all of those costs are lifted, and it just becomes a regular small outgoing, rather than some medications are $1,000 a tablet or higher. I can't imagine what it would be like. And our health insurance exceeds $1,200 a month for medical insurance. And I said, that's meant to pay for whatever happens to you and your choice of doctor and choice of hospital and nice rooms, but it doesn't, because there's still a gap after that. Even if you treat it, it's just rotten.
It's profiteering. It's profiteering. It's plain and simple. And this.
Go ahead. Go ahead. But I agree on the profiteering. I mean, we have doctors here. It's like, if you don't have insurance, we'll see you, and it's $65. You come to our office, it's $65. We'll take care of you. But if you have insurance, it's $450. Tell me that isn't using the system.
All right. Look. The truth is this, right? This is the one place or the one thing in your life that you really can't save on. It's your health and your well-being. And if you're up against the wall, right? I mean, Hawk, if you're diabetic, you got to insulin yourself, right? So I mean, they've got you by the short and curlies with that one. I mean, my mom is not well, and my father-in-law and my father as well died of cancer. Both times they spent thousands, if not tens of thousands, on treatment. And you know what? Yeah. You spend it. I tell if my kids were sick, I'd sell my house, right, to pay for it. This is what you do, and they know that, right? It is not right. In Great Britain, they've got a good system, believe it or not. In most of Europe has got an okay system, right? The taxes are through the roof, but at least healthcare is taken care of. In America and Australia, well, we're not doing good, right? And you're right. The system that they introduced is now being used to profiteer even more. It's incredible, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, Humalog, which is an insulin, it was $45 a month to carry you through the month, and now it's about $4,000.
Wow, that's insane. That's insane. I'm sorry. That's what is that? There's no reality here. That's just crazy.
Well, okay. It's the drug companies taking advantage. But what am I supposed to say? But anyway, I'm going to let you guys get back to your show. I wanted to let everybody know what was going on with Robin, and all the information I had. I'll let you guys get back to your show. I didn't want to invade your show or anything. I just wanted to get this information out because people ask, and there were some rumors getting out that she had already passed away and all that kind of stuff. So get a hold of me if you want to donate something to help her with whatever is going on. Just get a hold of me. Do not send donations for Robin to the station, please. Right now, I have to set up a fund, so it's clean and clear, and so it doesn't look like I'm taking advantage in some way. Which a lot of people trust me, but there will be a lot of trolls that will try to find a way to make it look bad.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I hear you. Well,
All
look,
right. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out, man.
peace
Thanks,
out
Nighthawk.
to you. Thank you very much, Nighthawk.
Yeah. Bye.
Look, I have to say that's grounded me today. That's my grounding. Hearing that. I'm still in the bumper for Robin's show, and
Okay.
yeah, I did a piece of that, and that's look. My heart goes out, my love goes out, and if all the energy in the world, there's some magical healing energy that we all have if we think positively. Let's send it Robin's way, and also the strength to get through it. Let's send that to Richard C. Hoagland's way, because I know what it's like. You don't look after yourself because you're looking after someone else, and then when it gets time for you to shine, you don't have anything left. So yeah, let's all keep that in our minds and see if we can help. As soon as Nighthawk announces something for us to be able to contribute, I'm certainly there, ready to go.
Yeah, completely agree with you. And look, it's a bad situation. I don't care which way you slice it. It's not a place you want to be in. And I mean, at the end of the day, right? Everything being equal, if you do not have your health, everything becomes irrelevant. Worse, if someone you love or is close to you doesn't have the health, right? Everything tastes like ash. You don't have any peace. You can't enjoy anything. You only half live your life.
Wow, that's a great expression.
Right? It's true though, and you just life. I mean, until you get some good news, you're living from news to news. Good news, good and bad news. Good news, bad news. Good. There's no out. There's no out. Right? Once you're in it, you're in it. You can't escape the situation, and this is really the truth. Look, this is maybe one of the reasons as well why this station exists, to draw a larger circle. We intend to bring about change in a good way, in a small way, in a peaceful way. But this change could translate to better healthcare. It could translate to better care for people if you change someone's mindset. If you can change someone's mindset, if you can make them think differently, if that doctor over there decides, oh, you know what, I don't need 5 Ferraris, yeah, or the drug company decides, oh yeah, look, our CEO doesn't need another 200-foot yacht, right? Then maybe we're taking steps in the right direction. Of course, human greatness is hard to overcome, but I believe that stations like this, or people that are listening to this, or write books, or whatever it might be, it's really important to at least try to change the mindset. If one person walks away from our show, right, every week, thinking slightly differently, or having learned something, or something that changes their mindset, we're on a winner. And then Hawk would like to reiterate not to send any donations to the station at this time, please. So just to reiterate that, please.
Absolutely.
No funds for Robin at this time. Thank you, everybody, and yeah, please do not. We will let you know, and Nighthawk will let you know what is being done, what is being set up, and how you can assist if you wish to do so. Again, to reiterate, this is a free station, right? So if you choose to listen, you're not paying anything for it. We don't get paid as hosts. All the money that the station raises itself goes to support the station, so the lights stay on, right? And but at this point, please, no money to the station for Robin, please.
Unless you wish to donate to the station, then
yeah.
for it as the station, for the money to be used within the station, then please don't stop that.
Look, absolutely. But you know, I admire both her and Richard's work. I thought it was one of the things that was groundbreaking. I remember it well when I first saw, but especially Cydonia, right? The complex and but also the structures on the moon and things like that. So for me, that was a game changer as well in my mind, right? Look, but we are where we are, and there's a lot of opposition to what we do, which is okay. That's okay. But you can't win them all. There's a couple of things I want to share with you today before we get really into it, and before I throw it to my esteemed co-host as well. Dave, I wanted to do a show on giants. I'm up to 180 pages, A4 pages of show notes on that.
Wow.
So that's so
there's a quarter of the year.
I know. So that's going to be significantly trimmed. But what we're going to, once we get to the show cycle, we're going to examine giants in mythology and reality, human growth, the limits of human growth, things from a biological and hormonal perspective, what is possible. We're going to look at a whole bunch of other stuff as well. This Smithsonian cover potentially. I'm not sure. I haven't made up my mind on that one yet. But it's going to be in the show. I just don't know if it's a thing, right? I think it may be, but
I know.
I need more.
I know that the rumors should be in the show.
Oh no, that'll be in there.
Absolutely. What are the rumors with this? Yeah.
Oh yeah. And look, and there's going to be a whole bunch of other things as well around giants. Like I didn't think it would be as rich a topic when I started on this track. But I'll be honest with you, I cast a fairly wide net. I'm looking at HGH, the human growth hormone. Yeah. I'm looking at the limits of human physiology and what is possible from a modern medicinal and scientific point of view, right? So how tall or how big could we actually grow? And I'm going to go into a few other things around the human performance there as well. But yeah, like I said, we are 180 pages, which is more than our Flood Myths short. Flood Myths, we had 100 pages of show notes, but this one I'm going to cut down significantly, hopefully, and then we can share it with you, which would be potentially even most of the year. And there's one other thing I wanted to raise before I get into my Facebook thing. There was a paper published April 30th, 2017. I only recently got a hold of it, in fact, this week, and it's called Prior Indigenous Technological Species. And this was written by Jason T. Wright of the Department of Astronomy and Astrophysics and Center for Exoplanets and Habitable Worlds, a 525 Davie Laboratory, the Pennsylvania State University, University Park, Pennsylvania 16802 in the USA. He's a visiting associate professor in the Department of Astronomy Laboratory. And I want to just share the abstract with you. I'm not going to read the whole paper, even though it's not terribly long. But the abstract, which is a sort of a summary, if you will, of the entire paper, I want to share that with you. One of the primary open questions of astrobiology is whether there is extant or extinct life elsewhere in the solar system. Implicit in much of this work is that we're looking for microbial or, at best, unintelligent life, even though technological artifacts might be much easier to find. SETI, that's S-E-T-I, work on searches for alien artifacts in the solar system typically presumes that such artifacts would be of extrasolar origin, even though life is known to have existed in the solar system on Earth for eons. But if a prior technological, perhaps spacefaring species ever arose in the solar system, it might have produced artifacts or other technosignatures that have survived to the present day. Meaning, solar system artifact SETI provides a potential path to resolving astrobiology's question. Here, I discussed, that's the author, the origins and possible locations for technosignatures of such a prior indigenous technological species, indigenous here referring to the Earth, which might have arisen on ancient Earth or another body, such as pre-greenhouse Venus or a wet Mars. In the case of Venus, the arrival of its global greenhouse and potential resurfacing might have erased all evidence of its existence on the Venusian surface. In the case of Earth, erosion and ultimately plate tectonics may have erased more such evidence if the species lived a year ago, which is a long time ago. Remaining indigenous technosignatures might be expected to be extremely old, limiting the places they might still be found to beneath the surfaces of Mars and the Moon, or in the outer solar system. That's the abstract. Now, this is a professor for astronomy and astrophysics at the University of Pennsylvania, and he has written this paper. It's peer-reviewed. It's been published. Okay, and I've got a copy here on my hard drive. And Dave, I'm so heartened by the fact that hard scientists, let's call them, are looking at the possibility that intelligent life, whatever the form might have been, may have existed on this planet before, or it might have even originated on Venus or Mars, and in fact might have left I guess traces or such on the moon. So this paper, like I said, it's published. It's a published scientific paper. It's not, like I said, it's not hugely long. It's got how many pages? It's 11, 12 pages with a massive appendix. It's always funny. The references are usually longer than the paper.
The smaller than paper, the bigger the references. That's right.
I know, right? But nonetheless, here's hard mainstream science taking up what Dave and I have been talking about for, well, at least the last 7 years on Revolution Radio here, and it's certainly longer in our private lives, because I firmly believe that many intelligent species, potentially human beings themselves, or our I guess predecessors, again in properly humanoid form, have inhabited this planet for a very long time indeed. And in fact, this is part of this giants cycle as well, because the giants clearly, in my mind, we'll get to it when we do the show, are very much human. They might be big, but they're very much not just humanoid, but very much human beings as we understand them. Certainly from them taller, yes, bigger, yes, but emotionally and intellectually, certainly very similar, if not the same, as us. So, Dave, what do you reckon about this paper? That's a great paper, right?
Sounds amazing. And look, I know that when a scientific paper goes looking for something, because when the description of it is that they're going to start or begin looking, and they've got quite a handful of places to look and what to look for. Pardon me. I think that's almost evidence for itself. I don't believe that they'll come up with nothing. I think these kinds of published papers are our hint, and this is the way that I see it. They're the breadcrumbs that lead us down the path as a society to recognize it, because without them, and the way that this one in particular was worded, it's setting us up for recognition that it's true. I think there's ample information to gather to fully comprehend that there was another species living on the planet of high technology. I completely agree with it. I don't need to go on, but Mackie, that's an unbelievable find. Well done.
Oh, look, I'm just glad that somebody in the scientific community at least has started the ball rolling, because you can't do anything anywhere unless it's peer reviewed. It's actually ridiculous, right?
That's right.
Now, the thing is this: you and I could have contributed to this paper significantly. As could have Richard Hoagland, for that matter.
That's
if
right.
You really want to talk about that, right? But you know what? Baby steps. And I'm just heartened by the fact that I am in my lifetime, am seeing these baby steps. I'm seeing a positive change in the scientific mindset, in the establishment, where, oh yeah, look, there's something here. It could be something, right? Let's look at it. In fact, the conclusion that the paper reached, I didn't share it with you. It says, well, it's likely that it existed. It's just going to be hard to find, right? We just have to really look hard and. Just look at what we did to the planet and look for something similar. They say, that's a good point to start. And I go, yeah, I applaud you and your thinking. Because to publish a paper like that 10 years ago, 15, 20 years ago, would have been academic suicide.
It would have been suicide, that's right.
And, they wouldn't even have, they wouldn't even looked at you. Oh, this guy's insane, clearly, completely insane. So why are we wasting our time here? But clearly, no, not insane. Not insane at all. In fact, the opposite of insane. So I'm really happy that this is happening. But yeah, Dave, so there was another thing I wanted to quickly mention.
I know what this one is.
David Icke, whom you all know. And if you don't know David Icke and you listen to this station, you've lived under a rock. But... But the point I'm trying to make here is, so David Icke was meant to come to us. In fact, should have been in Australia by now. for a speaking engagement. It was touted to be potentially his last. He's in his 60s, not easy to travel anymore. He's been here before. I saw him in Town Hall last time he was here. I think it was about, I want to say 2 years ago.
What, he's
a
been
great
here
talk.
like 10 times before.
He's been here a few times. Absolutely, the talk was great, like it would be. And he can talk literally for hours. He's got a couple. I mean, he's got a presentation, but he can talk on his side. He knows his stuff. The stuff he wants to talk about, he knows, and he goes and he just runs with it, which is awesome, right? So it's really he's a great and compelling speaker. It's enjoyable to listen to him. It's entertaining, but it's also very informational. So anyway, so that's David Icke, and he was meant to come here. So what has happened is he was now been banned. I should say, actually, his visa has been revoked.
Mm-hmm.
At moments, days or even hours before he was.
It was hours.
Meant to board a plane to Australia, and on the grounds that he is he's got character, he's got something wrong with his character. 1 and 2, and related, of course, is this that he is a Holocaust denier and therefore an anti-Semite, and a lobby group has lobbied the government to revoke his visa. Now, I actually have except for one, I've got every one of David Icke's books. I've read them all, except for one. I've seen a lot of his videos, his talks.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen his interview with what's his shaman, the Mukhtar. There's the South African witch doctor he speaks with. I can't remember his name. My apologies. But I watched that interview as well. Fascinating stuff. I think it's Mukhtar. Anyway, but the point is, in all of his references, in all of his works, in everything that I've read, seen, listened to, that he has produced, he didn't strike me as a racist of any color or an anti-Semite, to be specific. And I said as much on Facebook. I don't.
Here it comes.
So I did say that, right? And someone asked me, whom I know from work. I've worked with her years ago, and she has a Jewish background, the same as I. I should say this as well. I do have Jewish ancestry. I've got German ancestry. I've got Turkish ancestry. I've got, if you can point at it, I probably have it. So, but be that as it may. So my ancestors actually fled the Ukraine. I want to say 120, 130 years ago, when the Russian.
That's also my heritage too. I've got Irish, Russian, and Dutch.
There you go. They were fleeing the Russian pogroms, which killed tens of thousands of Jews at the time. They went to what is now Poland, but then was Germany. Changed their name from Rosanka to Rezna, and later then Rosna. Different spell. But you go to any Jewish cemetery, and you'll see how many Rosnas are buried there, and how many Rosankas, and so forth. Anyway, that's beside the point. Right, so this is sort of the point as well. So I'm sensitive to it because I've been exposed to a lot of racism in my time when I was all over the world. Various different. I mean, if you're something else to whatever the prevailing group is, you will experience some kind of bigotry, and I have, right? So I'm very sensitive to it. So David Icke didn't actually strike me as that at all. Are people that are like that attracted to him? Sure, I'm sure they are. I'm sure in any demographic, right, that you will find some kind of racist or Nazis or anti-Semite that are listening to something. So
you might have them, not you, Mekki, but the listeners may have those kinds of people in their own family. While they don't have the same as you. They don't have the same, interest at heart, right?
No,
so
exactly.
In every single group, and I heard him talk about. He talked about that too, right?
He did.
Keep going.
There was an interview.
Fascinating.
No, but look, there was as well. But and I get to the interview in a second. But the point here is that yes, there will be people that are attracted to what he says because he does say, I name names because we're not monetized anyway, so who cares? So he says that the Rothschilds are intimately involved in the global cabal conspiracy. Mm-hmm. I have done the research, and I would be disingenuous to disagree. I think they have a big hand in it. Now, the Rothschilds happen to be of Jewish background. Are they practicing Jews? I don't know. Maybe not. Yes, so they are. But he also fingers the Bushes, the Harrimans, the royal family. Mm-hmm. Okay, he names these people, right, in his books, right? Is he now an anti-Harrimans? I think they're of German descent. Anti-German, the British family, anti-British. anti-American because he names the Bushes. So nobody actually focuses on that. They only focus on the fact that he fingers or names the Rothschilds as being part of the cabal.
But when he talks about the royal family, he's really talking also about their Russian heritage.
Oh no, completely.
Right?
But the point is, this is not a vilification of a single ethnic or religious or racial group. This is not what this is.
And it's not a hatred. It's not a hatred, and it's not racism.
No. So I read the book Them, My Travels with I think Extremists by Ron Johnson. Great British journalist. I love. He's written a few other books. Very, very good. So if you get a chance of read Ron Johnson. Anyway, he spent time with David Icke. He was lucky enough to get invited along. I think it was in Canada. David Icke was on tour, and Ron Johnson joined him. And so the conclusion that Ron reached was that there are some shady characters around David Icke, right, in his audience and such, and they might have different agendas to David Icke. But David Icke seems to be completely oblivious to this. And when David Icke, I'm quoting Ron Johnson here now, and when David Icke says 7-foot reptilian shapeshifters from the lower fourth dimension, then David Icke means 7-foot tall reptilian shapeshifters from the lower fourth dimension. He doesn't mean Jews. He actually believes that part of the oppressive elite are in fact 7-foot tall shape-shifting reptilians. That's what he believes. It's not veiled speech, or it's not a hidden symbolism he's trying to do. None of that. None of that.
Allegory. The words he's used. That's what he means. It's
literal. Okay. I mean, you don't have to agree with it, right? And to be honest with you, I'm probably further down the rabbit hole than he is. But
I liked your comment about that.
which should probably tell you something about me and the show. But really, and Dave for the matter, because he's here with me. but the thing is this: he is not making a veiled reference to Jewry at large. He really isn't. And I'm offended by the untruth. If somebody lies or tells a deliberate untruth, it offends me because it doesn't help. It doesn't add anything to the debate. It shouldn't be. It should never be about winning or losing a debate. It should be about progress. If we discuss something, this is how the Greeks did it. The dialogues of Plato, Timaeus, Critias. They were written down, and these dialogues were meant to resolve problems. There wasn't a winner as such. I mean, you have opposing points of view. You have discourse. You discuss it. Hopefully you come to some kind of understanding or an outcome, and you go, okay, this is interesting. I disagree with this, but that makes sense. And ideally, you may not all live in each other's pockets afterwards, but you have discussed the issue, and you have come to an understanding. That's what good philosophy does. I mean, it raises questions, and then you discuss the questions, and you try to figure out what's what. That's what David. Yeah, go on.
Yeah. I'll let you continue that sentence. Just 1 sec. If you have a barrier against what you believe is your opposition, you will never listen to one of their points. You'll never absorb it, never analyze it, never understand it, and never know what it is and how they've come to their understanding. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about the release and acceptance of the opposing argument. And while you think you might understand it, it's not until they've posed their position that then, just like in debunking for last week's show, you can understand how they came to their conclusions. So, Mekki, David Icke?
He is, so he's not that racist. Again, it's offensive to me to not trying to further the discussion, to not further our knowledge. He's just trying to figure it out. David Icke is just trying to figure. Has he, like some people say, he had a psychotic episode? Other people say he had a stroke of enlightenment. He was, when he was in South America, he describes this experience that happened to him where like he was downloading the truth. It was so much, it was too much. In fact, at the time he thought he was the Messiah, completely ridiculing himself that way in the British press and on British television, because he was a soccer player and then was actually quite a popular sports commentator.
Mm-hmm.
That career came to an abrupt end when he came out with his conspiracy theories. But he no longer believes the system is higher, which is good. But I mean, imagine yourself being all of a sudden hit with a realization, an epiphany. But it's so powerful, and maybe he accessed the Akashic record. Maybe he had some other help. I mean, I don't know. Okay, I just don't know. But the point is, imagine that were to happen to you. That would be something, man. And I'm telling you, I don't think you just walk away from that kind of thing. I think you have trouble dealing with it. I mean, Dave and I, we've been, well, I don't want to say subject matter experts, but certainly we've been interested in the subject matter for decades. For decades, right?
Yes.
So when we talk about something, it comes from a position of having actually looked at something for a very long time and thought about it. That's why it's very difficult to have meaningful discussions with people that want to prove you wrong, right? So you let them talk and talk and talk, but you know what they're going to say, right? And it's like it's sort of a waste of time to listen to them, right? Unless someone tells me something new and amazing, and I go, oh wow, you know what? I haven't actually thought about that. That sounds like an incredible thing, right? I haven't come across that very often, right? And certainly not when it comes to debunking it, because nobody actually. So my brother said to me, funnily enough, there's nobody out there that can challenge you, that you know. I'm sure there are people that can challenge me, but I just haven't come across them. And all the people that we invite to the show, and maybe that's because they're on the same path as we are, have been pretty much in agreement with us on a whole bunch of things, and where the research eventually leads you, right? I mean, it leads everybody to the same place, more or less.
That's the thing. It's all roads. All of these information roads lead us to the same point. It's like we've drawn our own map, followed it, and then you look up and you're standing in a group of people with their own hand-drawn map, and you go, what? But I came from over there. And they go, oh, yeah, no, I didn't. I came from over there. And that's why the first question we ask our guests is, what were you doing when your career took a sharp left?
Yeah.
Because that's what happened to us. Both of us, actually, it's not quite the same, because we'd been researching this kind of paranormal and all sorts of... We saw the world through a different lens, right, from very young. But this is what happens, Mickey, and I can only imagine what it's like for the rest of you in your own journeys. And I hope that my analogy is apt for you, because that's the way it feels. It feels like you've been concentrating on a map so long, you look up and suddenly you realize you're in a group of people who have the same interest. And it's extraordinary. And poor David Icke has been banned from Australia. He did a little piece. He was interviewed on the very show. They decided to get in contact with him the moment that they found out, and they got him on the show, and they did a piece to camera with their panel. But one of the panelists, and I have to name her because I don't believe that she was very fair, but maybe she just came from, their extreme side, or she was scripted, or whatever it is. But for poor Kerry Ann's little tiny world, all of this is too much for her, and she had a hard time trying to even justify speaking to him, thinking that he's just purely a lunatic. And from her point of view, which is almost like the station's point of view, she had a real hard time with it. Now, one of the I'm just going to say this right now, and I'll hand it back to you. One of the things that I didn't want anyone to do, and this is the same message that I said when, that guy, Alex Jones, the entertainment business is fickle business, kid. People don't remember you. You remember that guy? So Alex Jones, when Alex Jones was deplatformed, the thing that I said was, don't applaud the loss of free speech, right?
Yep.
And Kerry Ann was happy to have free speech removed from everyone. Let's just pull that out from underneath everybody, and no more free speech. But the host of the show, she was the one who reiterated my message, and that's fantastic. And not that I had any contact with her or anything, just saying she had that same message, and she said, I don't care. I don't really believe everything you say, David Icke, but I don't see a reason why you should be silenced on it. So.
No. Look. This democracy is not about agreeing with each other. Democracy is about tolerating and allowing other points of view to exist. If there weren't, then it wouldn't be democracy. It'll be a dictatorship because there'll only be one point of view. And so the sooner you come around to my point, it'll be better for all of you anyway.
Well, you've got dictator written all over you. That's great.
No, but
you tell us,
right.
Quimby.
That's just me. I'm just a natural-born dictator. But the thing is this. I mean, nobody has the monopoly on the truth. People will tell you otherwise, but those are the people I immediately distrust and unfriend on Facebook. We need to come to the truth through discourse, discussion, study, research, learning, and understanding. That's how you get to understanding what is going on. Not so easy. Not easy to just say, yep, and burn the books. Let's burn the books, like Dave said.
Time for a book.
I know. I pinged him with the news that David had been denied access or entry into Australia, and then he replied to my message. Next to the book burning, so next, to the observatory. Let's burn it down, so this will never happen again. I'm astounded though, and this is really funny in relation to what I just said. It's interesting how we all, and I was thinking about this before the show. I was driving. We all are struggling to form a coherent picture of the world, right? So that's what we're doing. And there are a lot of assumptions. There's actually a point to this. There are a lot of assumptions that are running to form our worldview, and you can't really rattle those. And as soon as something comes up that doesn't fit, like evidence of giants or potential visitors from that are not from this planet or from this planet or from inside the planet or from whatever, like any unusual. Not usual, like Homer Simpson says. It's not usual. Anything that is not usual is automatically dismissed for the most part. Not too hard. Ignored. In fact, I have to say this before I go on. Solaris awesomely posted something about sliders, and there's something called SLI, a street light interference phenomenon. Mm-hmm. They're called sliders. Now, I just saw her posting the article, and then I saw the comments, and I said, yeah, that happens to me. And I said there are two streetlights that will go on or off whenever I go past them, be it in the car or riding or running. It doesn't matter. Those two streetlights go either on or off. I also found that hotel keys, electronic keys, if I keep them on my person too long, stop working. I have to go down to the lobby, get a new one. And this happens it's so annoying. I travel a lot. It happens a lot, right? So I used to think it's just what happens to everybody, but I don't see everybody having the same issue, but whatever. So I read the article then afterwards, and I read it all and go, my God, everything that I had no idea this was actually such an organized thing. Everything the article describes is exactly what happens to me in this context. And one of the key points it said, most of the evidence in the article is anecdotal because you can't study the phenomenon. In fact, if you try to bring about a change, like if you want to turn off a street light, it won't work. I've tried it. Right. Nothing happens. Mm-hmm. Like if you focus on it and try to do it, it doesn't happen. Like, sometimes I expect it, but I expect it not as, how can I explain this best?
I'm not as though it's doing it itself.
Yeah.
And you're not doing it.
Correct. And I'm not forcing it. So it's just my expectation that, this is what's going to happen, and bang, it happens. But I'm not thinking I'm doing it. Do you know what I mean?
That's right.
So it's passive.
Yeah. Psychokinesis, where you do something, but you're unaware that it's you doing it, and that's the position you must take with this phenomenon. I used to be able to not hold USB sticks, like the small ones, when it was 500 meg or 256 meg or whatever, and otherwise they would just delete themselves. Plug it in the machine, it would go, I don't understand what this is. Do you need to format it? Right. It happened to me all the time. So now I carry them in my bag. I'm not carrying them in my hands. Same deal, Becky. It's crazy, right?
It is. So I have 20 hard drives, like the small USB hard drives, the external storage, like half a terabyte. I don't have 20 because I need 20. I have 20 because about a third of them have failed. And I looked this up. The failure rate of my hard drives far outstrips the average in the market. So, I'm serious.
I love that you looked that up. That's great.
Well, I wanted to know because I was thinking I was spending quite a bit of money on these things. So there's a couple $100, they're not cheap.
No.
And I need them. I do need them because but I don't need 20 of them. But I do have that many because a third of them have failed. And so what I'm reminded of is whenever these things pop up, and to be honest with you, I completely dismissed this as something that just happens in my life. Oh yeah, streetlights turn on and off. It's just something that happens. Now you talk to someone else, this is quite amazing, Mickey. That's very interesting. Or you're insane. It's just coincidence. Whatever. Whatever the thing is. Until I saw Solaris's article. The article she posted, which was chaos. Hold that thought. There's a point.
Look, there's a station break. It's only very small. We'll be back in a couple of minutes' time. Mickey will finish his point, and then I've got another one to add.
It's staff or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
You're back with Dave and Mickey's Shiny Side Out on freedomslips.com on the #1 listener-supported talk radio on the net. So push the donate button or subscribe to the archives for only $5. I think it's $5.95 per month. That's AUD, Australian money, which is really just a coffee in Australia. Mickey made that joke. May not be only $5 in the US. It might be cheaper. Probably is. I get a big jumbo cup. That's what I do. A 3-shot jumbo. Look, I'd like to say hello to all of the new listeners we have today. There's always new listeners joining us. And we're glad you're on board. And we hope to make your journey down the rabbit hole an easier one.
Maybe and comfortable.
Comfortable. Keep your arms in the right at all times. No flash photography. Suspend all your personal in reality inverters. Is that right, Mickey?
Oh, yes. That's what it is.
Absolutely. This is a tinfoil hat zone. We talk about the things that maybe others won't appreciate as much as we do. So whether you follow, subscribe, or otherwise, we hope your journey is pleasant. We're halfway through show number 363, pausing for Mickey. 360 and 300. It's palindrome day today. So we're just rounding out the David Icke discussion, and Mickey left us with a
point. I did. So, as I said, and just to recap quickly, unusual things happen in your life, and they're usually dismissed. But let's say you want to follow them up, right? And then science comes along, and I'm reminded of this picture in my mind. I can't get rid of it. I do like The Simpsons, I really do. Mm-hmm. And it's Homer doing a puzzle. So Homer is sitting at the kitchen table doing a puzzle, and he's got a piece, and he tries to he bangs on the piece with his fist. Says, "Damn fit, you damn you fit. Of course, the piece doesn't fit. That's the point. Now, that's how I sometimes feel mainstream science is looking at these phenomena. Fit, damn you, fit. And if it doesn't fit, they throw it in the trash.
That's right.
Because it doesn't fit. So we've built up a picture of the world on a whole bunch of assumptions and preconceived ideas and theories. Let's make no mistake, these are theories. And that's our world, and that's okay. But sometimes something comes along when you go, okay, it doesn't really fit. Let's re-examine what we know. Let's try to come to a new understanding. And that's when I feel like mainstream science, for the most part, mainstream society, but mainstream science certainly as the main culprit here, simply tries to bang the puzzle into the wrong place, or then if it doesn't fit, gets rid of that puzzle piece altogether. It just would take someone to look at it differently, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so I've seen them trim around the outside to make it fit, Right? Did you like that one? So they
Yeah.
they extract from it all the things that didn't make it fit, and then make it fit because of that, right?
See, it fits, but no, shut up.
Don't ask any questions. What's all that stuff in the bin? Nothing.
What?
What? This is where we live. We live in this, and Meki, thanks for rounding that out. I want to say two things. Number one, from the top of the show, Nighthawk, the station owner, joined us and expressed to us some urgent information about Robin Falkov, Dr. Robin Falkov, and her physical state at the moment isn't very good. The poor thing has endured illness for some time, and we're hoping that there'll be something set up where we can, not at the moment it isn't, but at some point we'll be able to contribute to something. However, I've just been handed a note from the station owner who says, if you'd like to send something to Robin, Dr. Robin Falkov, you can do so. I have permission to read out her address, so I'm going to ask that you get a pen and paper ready, or you can type it into a console, whatever it takes you to be able to utilize the information. And if this is on YouTube, you can just, take it back a couple of notches. If you've listened to this in archive, you can just reverse it or pause it and get yourself a pen. Okay, the adult sound is played. Ding! That means you need someone to be able to write it down. The number, her address is the number 7635. That's the street number. Arroyo, which is ARROYO, then a space, Del Oso, and Del is one word, Oso is another word, OSO. Northeast Albuquerque. You can Google that one if you don't know how to spell it. New Mexico, and the postcode, or the zip code, is 87109. I won't repeat it because you can just go back and do it. You can go back in time and hear it again. Now, I probably suspect that that wellness cards or flowers or some kind of whatever it is, you could probably send a check if you wish. I suspect as well, until there is a way of being able to contribute money directly or indirectly to maybe Richard, to be able to help him with his expenses, that would be tremendous. Now, the station doesn't normally do this. This is a special instance, and there's some leniency here. The reason being is she's not well. The second reason is she's a long-term friend of Nighthawk, the station owner, and he feels, and we feel, and the other hosts feel as though this is really necessary. She's been a mainstay on the channel for 7 years. As of we've been here, we're almost at our 8th. And do you know what? The tragedy of life can occur to anyone at any time. So if you've got anything at all that you'd like to convey to her, and I say anything because it could be a letter, a card, some flowers, or even some money, go ahead, and you've got Nighthawk's permission to go ahead and do that. So thank you very much. It brings tears to my eyes because I lost both of my parents to cancer. It brings tears to my eyes because I got a family member, my daughter, who's not very well, and I don't ask for anything. I'm not asking for anything. What I'm saying is, when tragedy touches you, you know what it means when it touches somebody else. The second point I want to bring. Thank you very much for hearing me out about that. But I wanted to say something, Meki. We talked about David Icke and our stupid Australian, consulate or government. Mm-hmm. It was pitched to our government to cancel his visa, preventing him from entering the country. That's not going to silence him. That's actually going to add more strength to his communications, and maybe it will help him overall. I know that he won't get any of the funds from his tour. But hopefully maybe he'll be a little bit more receptive to maybe having him on our show. That might be nice. So there might be an opportunity to be able to interview him personally. So, but one of the things that I wanted to bring up, and it was the only story that I really had, and this is Muffin Break. Okay, so Muffin Break is a franchise, and you can opt in for it. You would need to pay the franchise owner money for using the brand. You'd have to be trained by them. There's rules set up. You make muffins and sell them under Muffin Break logo, right? And then there'd be a percentage of that sale that would go to the franchise owner. Makes sense, right? You're the franchisee. You get to make some money. It extends their profits and their audience. However, the Muffin Break owner has been a little bit put back maybe by the lack of enthusiasm from any of the millennials. And now remember, I think Meki and I have both spoken about millennials in the past, and we've mentioned that they do come from a different world. Their world is electronic. You would imagine if you have a computer on the desk, they can automatically already use it. They know everything about it. They've come from an era where computers already existed, unlike the majority of us, and that it's intuitive to them. And you'd imagine that they'd be really keen to use it. Well, not so much, right? Anyone who's employed a millennial who is the stereotypical millennial will find that they're really more interested in social media than doing actual work, and their entitlement, their self-empowered entitlement, suggests that to them that they should just be paid, $100,000, $200,000, maybe I should just be CEO of my own company because that's what everyone else can do. So maybe I'll just do that. I'll just, how do I get to your job? That interview question, what are you going to do in 5 years? Time, I'll have your job, thanks. And that's the owner of the company. They don't even understand. I won't even wait 5 years. I'll leave now and I'll just start my own company. And the head of Muffin Break says that they're so full of their own self-importance that they don't want to do any work. This is her quotes, and she calls it an inflated view of self-importance. So it's much bigger than their skill set. And this was the one that got me, is that they won't work for nothing. Like, all the other franchise owners aren't deriving a wage directly from Muffin Break themselves to get their franchise working. They're not. They put in the hard yards. They get it out there. Usually you run your first year at a loss, and then after that you've built up a large enough audience, and you're selling in profit. Right? Hopefully you're in profit by then. But the millennials, she says, don't want to do any of the work. They don't want to. All they want is the money from it, and they just expect to be famous. It's so terrible. Now that's from my perspective, yeah. And she says that this is the Daily Telegraph, which is a renowned paper here. It's usually balanced. It says they're no longer willing to do unpaid work. They're just unwilling. Why would I even have a franchise then? Why would I join in if I'm not getting paid? What's the point? Why do anything? So this is coming from the voice of the millennials who have been basically, they're never going to own a house because they can't afford it. They're never going to have a job. They don't put enough effort in unless they can derive money directly out of social media, or they beat us all in social credit when that comes on Facebook.
There we said it.
Yeah,
I'm a gazillionaire. I will buy all you have. What?
Yeah, millennial buys Muffin Break. Wouldn't that be funny? From social
with
credit.
likes. He spends 5 billion likes. That's what happened. Oh, you laugh now. You laugh now. You wait.
Oh yeah, I look. I know. Like, don't forget, Mickey. The YouTube channel's in my name.
Okay, how about that? No more show notes.
No. You need a YouTube account, see, to create a YouTube channel.
I know.
And all of this negative, because it's not social credit I'll be earning, all of this rhetoric and all of the anti-establishment views that we both put forward, it's all on me. There you go.
They will like us. They love us.
Oh, I'm sure.
Everybody, how can you not love us? My mother said I'm special, like Jerry Seinfeld said, right?
Yeah,
how can they not love me? I'll tell you how. Very easily. But look,
there's a song lyric from a song called Popular, and one of the lines is, "My mum says I'm a catch." That's great. That's gold, Mecki.
It's just what you need.
It was what I needed every single day just to get through school. Look, we've got to do it. We have to start. This is show number 363, and we're talking about the lost years of Jesus. This is part one in a multiple show arc. And you know what, Mecki? I grew up being thrown out of church for asking too many questions. I grew up in a house where religion wasn't spoken of, but we were all sort of gung ho towards religion. That's what happened. And I didn't question. Oh well, did he keep going? I didn't question anything about it. I took the words as gospel about him, dying, come back to life, then disappearing, maybe getting beamed up. I'm not sure what happened.
Look,
how did the show come about?
We need to take a step back. Let me take a step back, and we need to understand a few things here. First of all, for the longest time, the Christian religion was a complete mystery to the people that believed in it. And what I mean by that is that the Bible was originally written, the New Testament, in Greek. It was written in Greek, all right? And then it was translated into Latin. Neither language was spoken by the vast majority of Europeans at the time. Like, we're talking about the Middle Ages here, going back between 2 and 1,000 years ago, even 500 years ago. So for 1,500 years, or thereabouts, most people had no idea what they were believing in. They simply listened to the priest, bishop, cardinal, pope, whatever, who of course could read Greek and Latin. And they knew what was in the Bible, so it's all good. But again, like I said, the vast majority of the church, the people, had no idea what it said, except for what the priests told them. So that's important to understand. 1. 2. We're not disputing the existence of Jesus here. This is not what this show is at all. It is not also answering the question if Jesus Christ was the Son of God, or a guy, or a number of guys, or whatever. This is not this show either. This is the show that's going to look at what happened to Jesus in the 18 years we don't know about. Okay, so nobody disputes the fact that there's a gap of 18 years. Yeah, so we hear when he's born. That's great. And then we hear from him again when he's about 12 years old, and he has an argument, in the temple with a couple of rabbis. And then there's silence until he starts his ministry at the age of what we believe is around 30. So that's this show. Okay? And we need to talk about this because it's important. And it's important in many ways because it will also make you understand maybe some of the things that are going on in the world today. And I do ask you to keep an open mind. I don't want to offend anyone's belief. I really don't. You got faith. That's awesome. But understand there is information out there which you may not be privy to. Right? You can choose not to believe it, call it the work of the devil, whatever. It's all good, right? But nonetheless, there's information that needs to be shared. Also bear in mind that it's only about 1 billion people, or maybe is it 2 billion now? I got to look up the numbers. I'm not sure. That are nominally Christian, right? They're Muslims, they're Jews, they're Buddhists, they're Hindus, and there's a whole bunch of others as well, right? And they all believe they have some version of the truth, their truth. All right. So let's be clear. We're not. This is not a religious show. We're not gonna answer any religious questions here. This is not. So if you wanted that, then you better tune out. Okay. What we are concerned with are the theories around those missing 18 years. That's what we're concerned with here. I mean, what happened in that time? How come we don't have any information? Right. And it's a mysterious life. I mean, how can a 12-year-old boy argue successfully with rabbis in the temple? Now, the answer for some of you might be because he's the son of God, of course. Well, fair. That's like saying magic, right? That's like no, but look, it is magical
in
thinking,
time.
right? Yeah,
traveled back in time for some reason.
Yeah, look, and this is, and I have to say this as well. I once was on the train many years ago, before I realized that the true way to happiness is not to argue with fools. I argued, so I was sitting behind some people. They were talking, and we just started talking to each other. And they tried to then tell me how my life is lived in sin, and I'm going to burn in hell, and all that. Oh, okay, that's fair enough. I said, well, okay, what about the dinosaurs, though? I mean, if the fossil record goes back hundreds of millions of years, we think.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, they go, no. You see, no, that's not true at all. Said, oh, okay, I see. So how do we explain? I mean, if these were people that believed that the Earth had been created 4004 BC. They were adherents to Bishop Ussher's calculations, which he published in these. I think it was on October, Thursday afternoon, when the world was created in the year 4004 before Christ. Yeah, so about 6,000 years ago. So they were very much believing that. And they said to me, well, these dinosaur fossils and all that, they're old because God made them so. And I go, okay, you win. You win. What do I say to that? You win the argument. That's it. It's magical thinking, right? Here it is. God made it so. Well, after this, there's nothing I can say that would make any sense to anything. So I'll just, okay, understood. And we parted amicably. But you can't argue with people like that, right? So this is really what it is. And it's really important to understand that there's a gulf between people who choose to blindly believe something and just adhere to it and aren't open to discussion, and people that have an open mindset and are open to discussion. Faith is a beautiful thing. If you've got faith in something, you can live a rich life. Blind belief in a religion is not. It isn't. And again, it's hard. Look, most of my life I've struggled with this, right? Because I was never nominally part of any religion, right? So I took part in all religious education in Germany, right? I went to Catholic religious education. I went to Protestant religious education. Like I said, some of my ancestors have of Jewish descent. I didn't get any education in that field, though. I mean, most of the things I learned are self-taught. My father was a Muslim. Half my family was Muslim. I never really got any formal education in that either, only what I picked up on the edges. My wife's family are Taoists, for example, right? And my friends are anything, really. I mean, you got everything, the whole spectrum of different beliefs. So it's for me, like I said, it was a lifelong struggle with it. But again, this is not that show. So we are, Dave, discussing the unknown years of Jesus, and it's not 180 show pages, only 33. Now the unknown years of Jesus, also called his silent years, lost years, or even missing years, generally refer to the period of Jesus' life between his childhood and the beginning of his ministry, a period not described in the New Testament. These lost years of Jesus, or the concept thereof, is usually encountered in esoteric literature, where it at times also refers to his possible post-crucifixion activities. And we're going to go into that a little bit as well. But because it's actually related, there's a link between the two. But it is not commonly used in scholarly literature, since it is assured that Jesus was probably working as a carpenter in Galilee, at least some of the time with his father Joseph, from the age of 12 to 29. So the years were not lost, and then he died in Calvary. In the late medieval period, there appeared Arthurian legends that the young Jesus had been in Britain, In the 19th and 20th centuries, theories began to emerge that between the ages of 12 and 29, Jesus had visited Kashmir or had studied with the Essenes in the Judean desert. Modern mainstream Christian scholarship has generally rejected these theories and holds that nothing is known about this time period in the life of Jesus. The use of the lost years in the swoon hypothesis suggests that Jesus survived his crucifixion and continued his life instead of what was stated in the New Testament, that he ascended into heaven with 2 angels. This and the related view that he avoided crucifixion altogether has given rise to several speculations about what happened to him in the supposed remaining years of his life. But these are not accepted by mainstream scholars either. Dave?
The 18 unknown years, the New Testament gap. Following the accounts of Jesus' young life, there is a gap of about 18 years in history, in his story, in the New Testament. Other than the statement that after he was 12 years old, Jesus advanced in wisdom and stature and in favor with God and men. That's from Luke 2:52. The New Testament has no other details regarding this gap. While Christian tradition suggests that Jesus simply lived in Galilee during that period, modern scholarship holds that there is little historical information to determine what happened during those years. The ages of 12 to 29, the appropriate ages at either end of the unknown years, have some significance in Judaism of the Second Temple period. 13 is the age of the Bar Mitzvah. Sorry, the Bar Mitzvah, not Bizarre Mitzvah. There's a Freudian slip. The age of the secular maturity. And 30, the age of readiness for the priesthood, although Jesus was not of the tribe of Levi or Levi. Christians have generally taken the statement in Mark 6:3, referring to Jesus as, "Is not this the carpenter," as an indication that before the age of 30, Jesus had been working as a carpenter. The tone of the passage leading to the question, "Is not this the carpenter?" suggests familiarity with Jesus in the area, reinforcing that he had been generally seen as a carpenter in the gospel account before the start of his ministry. Matthew 13:55 poses the question that, "Is not this the carpenter's son?" suggesting that the profession tekton had been a family business and Jesus was engaged in it before starting his preaching and ministry in the gospel accounts. Mackie.
The background of Galilee and Judea. The historical record of the large number of workmen employed in the rebuilding of Sepphoris has led Beatty in 1984 and others to suggest that when Jesus was in his teens and 20s, carpenters would have found more employment at Sepphoris rather than at the small town of Nazareth. Aside from secular employment, some attempts have been made to reconstruct the theological and rabbinical circumstances of the unknown years. For example, soon after the discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls, novelist Edmund Wilson in 1955 suggested Jesus may have studied with the Essenes, followed by the Unitarian Charles F. Potter in 1958 and others. Other writers have taken the view that the predominance of Pharisees in Judea during the period and Jesus' own later recorded interaction with the Pharisees makes a Pharisee background more likely, as in the recorded case of another Galilean, Josephus, studied with all three groups, Pharisees, the Sadducees, and the Essenes. In other sources, the New Testament Apocrypha and early Christian pseudo-epigrapha preserve various pious legends filling the gaps in Christ's youth. Charlesworth in 2008 explains this as due to the canonical Gospels having left a narrative vacuum that many have attempted to fill. Dave?
Oh, there we go. Claims of young Jesus in Britain. The story of Jesus visiting Britain as a boy is a late medieval development based on legends connected with Joseph of Arimathea. During the late 12th century, Joseph of Arimathea became connected with the Arthurian cycle, appearing in them as the first keeper of the Holy Grail. No wonder I heard that name before. This idea first appears in Robert de Boron's Joseph of Arimathea, in which Joseph receives the Grail from the apparition of Jesus and sends it with his followers to Britain. This theme is elaborated upon in Boron's sequels and in subsequent Arthurian works penned by others. Some Arthurian legends hold that Jesus travelled to Britain as a boy, lived in Priddy in the Mendips, and built the first wattle cabin in Glastonbury. William Blake's early 19th century poem, and as a quote, this is the poem name, is it? And did those feet in ancient time, was inspired by the story of Jesus travelling to Britain. In some versions, Joseph was supposedly a tin merchant and took Jesus under his care when his mother Mary was widowed. Widowed? Okay. Gordon Strachan?
God is dead.
God is dead, yeah. What happened? Gordon Strachan wrote Jesus the Master Builder, Druid Mysteries and the Dawn of Christianity. This was back in 1998. I love the subtitle, which was the basis of the documentary titled And Did Those Feet? In 2009, Strachan believed Jesus may have travelled to Britain to study with the Druids. Mackie.
Claims of Jesus Christ in India entered Tibet, before the crucifixions. Welcome to Tibet. And Louis Jacoliot, 1869. The idea of Indian influences on Jesus and Christianity in general has been suggested in Louis Jacoliot's book La Bible dans l'Inde, Ville Jésus Christon, 1869, translated, which was a horrible French rendition, by the way, translated to The Bible in India, or the Life of Jesus Christ.
All of our French listeners have just turned off.
I kill you, huh? First freedom fights, now this. Oh, no, Jacoliot does not claim travels by Jesus to India. Jacoliot compared the accounts of the life of Bhagavan Krishna with that of Jesus Christ in the Gospels and concluded that it could not have been a coincidence that the two stories have so many similarities in many of the finer details. He concluded that the account in the Gospels is a myth based on the mythology of ancient India. However, Jacoliot was comparing two different periods of history or mythology and did not claim that Jesus was in India. Jacoliot used the spelling Krishna instead of Krishna and claimed that Krishna's disciples gave him the name Jetsius or Yetsius, a name supposed to mean pure essence in Sanskrit. However, according to Max Miller, that is not a Sanskrit term at all, and it was simply invented by Jacoliot. Dave.
Nicholas Notovich, 1887. In 1887, a Russian war correspondent, Nicholas Notovich, claimed that while at the Hemis monastery in Ladakh, he had learned of the document, and in brackets it says, Life of Saint Issa, best of the sons of men. Issa became the Arabic name. There you go, I'm doing the same thing. Tibet, Arabic name of Jesus in Islam.
Welcome to Tibet.
Notovich's story.
First we get
Notovich's story with a translated text of Life of Saint Issa was published in French in 1894 as La Veille Inconnue de Jésus Christ. You think you're going to get shot. the kids start Daddy's car for me. Unknown life of Jesus Christ is what it translates to. According to the scrolls, Jesus abandoned Jerusalem at the age of 13 and set out towards Sind, attending to improve and perfect himself in the divine understanding and to studying the laws of the great Buddha. He crossed Punjab and reached Puri Jagannath, where he studied the Vedas under Brahmin priests. He spent Brahmin priests. Sorry, he spent 6 years in Puri and Ragur, near Nalanda, the ancient seat of Hindu learning. Then he went to the Himalayas and spent time in Tibetan monasteries studying Buddhism. Not Tibetan. No, that's the other place. It's over the hill. And through Persia, returned to Jerusalem at the age of 29. So they've got him in his absence, traveling and learning. Notovich's writings were immediately controversial, and Max Muller stated that either the monks at the monastery had deceived Notovich or played a joke on him, or he had fabricated the evidence. Muller then wrote to the monastery of Hemus, and the head lama replied, I didn't know that lamas were there, Mackie. That's right. It's only one L. Okay. The head lama replied that there had been no Western visitor at the monastery in the past 15 years, and there was no documents related to Notovich's story. J. Archibald Douglas then visited Hemus Monastery and interviewed the head lama, who stated that Notovich had never been there. Indologist Leopold von Schroeder called Notovich's story a big fat lie. Wow, he's as outspoken as Jeremy Clarkson. Wilhelm Schneemelcher states that Notovich's accounts were soon exposed as fabrications, and that to date no one else has had a glimpse of the manuscripts Notovich claims to have had. Notovich responded to claims to defend himself, but once his story had been re-examined by historians, some even questioning his existence, it is claimed that Notovich confessed to having fabricated the evidence. Bart D. Ehrman states that today there is not a single recognized scholar on the planet who has any doubts about the matter. The entire story was invented by Notovich, who earned a good deal of money and a substantial amount of notoriety for his hoax. Ends the quote. However, others deny Notovich ever accepted the accusations against him that his account was a forgery, etc., although he was not impressed with his story. Sir Francis Younghusband, gee, they ran out of names, didn't they? Recalls his meeting with Nicholas Notovich near Skardu, not long before Notovich had visited Hemus Monastery. So look, they've got someone placing him near it. Who knows? Right?
Swami Abhedananda, in 1922. In 1922, Swami Abhedananda, the founder of Vedanta Society of New York, 1897, and the author of several books, went to the Himalayas on foot and reached Tibet, where he studied Buddhistic philosophy and Lamaism. He was one of the skeptics who tried to debunk Nicholas Notovich and disprove the existence of the manuscript about Jesus in India. However, when he reached Hemus Monastery, he found the manuscript, which was a Tibetan translation of the original scrolls written in Pali. The Lama said that it was a copy, and the original was in a monastery at Mabur near Lhasa. After Abhedananda's death in 1939, one of his disciples inquired about the documents at the Hemus Monastery, but was told they had disappeared. So what are we to make of that?
Yeah, good question. Levi H. Dowling, 1908. Another reference, but coming forward in time. In 1908, Levi H. Dowling published the Aquarian Gospel of Jesus the Christ, which he claimed was channeled to him from the Akashic records as the true story of the life of Jesus, including the lost 18 years silent in the New Testament. The narrative follows the young Jesus across India, Tibet, Persia, Assyria, Greece, and Egypt. Dowling's work was later used by Holger Kirsten to combine it with elements derived from the other sources, such as the... Oh, go ahead, Mekki.
The Ahmadiyya beliefs.
Ah, thank you.
Which brings us to the reaction by modern mainstream New Testament scholarship. Modern mainstream Christian scholarship has generally rejected any travels by Jesus to India, Tibet, or surrounding areas as without historical basis. And these are the people and their reasons. Robert Van Voorst states that modern scholarship has almost unanimously agreed that the claims of the travels of Jesus to Tibet, Kashmir, or the rest of India contain nothing of value. Marcus Borg states that the suggestions that an adult Jesus traveled to Egypt or India and came into contact with Buddhism are without historical foundation. John Dominic Crossan states that none of the theories presented about the travels of Jesus to fill the gap between his early life and the start of his ministry have been supported by modern scholarship. Leslie Holden states that although modern parallels between the teachings of Jesus and Buddha have been drawn, these comparisons emerged after missionary contacts in the 19th century, and there is no historically reliable evidence of contacts between Buddhism and Jesus. And finally, Paula Fredrickson states that no serious scholarly work places Jesus outside the backdrop of first century Palestinian Judaism.
Claims of life after surviving crucifixion is the other component of this discussion. The swoon hypothesis in critical Western literature concerns latter years of Jesus after the crucifixion, with a range of hypotheses that suggest later death in Kashmir, Rome, or during the siege of Masada in Judea. The traditional Islamic view of Jesus' death does not propose later the latter years of Jesus, since based on the statements in the Quran 4:157 to 158, most Muslims believe Jesus was raised to heaven without being put on the cross, and God transformed another person, at times interpreted as Judas Iscariot or Simon of Cyrene, to appear exactly like Jesus, who was crucified instead of Jesus. Some interpretations of Hadith and other traditions have Jesus' life continuing on earth. Ibn Babawayh, that'll have to do, in Ikmal ad-Din recounts that Jesus went to far country. Mekki.
Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, 1899. And now we're going to talk about the earlier mentioned Ahmadiyya. According to Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, the founder of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, the further sayings of Muhammad say that Jesus died in Kashmir at the age of 120 years. They identify the holy man Yus Asaf, buried at the Rosabal shrine in Srinagar, which, by the way, you can visit today, India, as Jesus on the basis of an account in the history of Kashmir by the Sufi poet Khwaja Muhammad Azam Didamari, 1747. That the holy man Yus Asaf buried there was a prophet and a foreign prince. Paul C. Pappas states that from a historical perspective, the Ahmadi identification of Yus Asaf with Jesus relies on legends and documents which include clear historical errors. For example, Gondophares' reign, and that it is almost impossible to identify Yus Asaf with Jesus. In his 1957 book, The Wisdom of Balavar, David Marshall Lang presented evidence of how confusion in diacritical markings in Arabic texts had transformed Buddha to be, into Yudasaf or Yodasaf, and then Yusasaf, and resulted in the Ahmadiyya assertions, also confusing Kashmir and Kushinara, the place of Buddha's death. The Swedish scholar Per Beskow in Jesus in Kashmir, historian and legends in 1981, also concluded that Ahmad had misidentified traditions about Gautama Buddha in the Bilawaya Yudasaf legend as being about Jesus. Beskow updated his conclusions in English in 2011.
Meher Baba, 1925, according to Indian spiritual master Meher Baba, when Jesus was crucified, he did not die physically, but he entered the state of Nirvikalp Samadhi, the I am God state without bodily consciousness. On the third day, he again became conscious of his body, and he travelled secretly in disguise eastward with some apostles, mostly important with Bartholomew and Thaddeus, to India. This was called Jesus' resurrection. After reaching India, Jesus travelled further to east to Rangoon in Burma, where he remained for some time. He then went north to Kashmir, where he settled. After Jesus' spiritual work was completed, Jesus subsequently dropped his body, and the body was buried by the two apostles in Havan at Kanyar district of Kashmir.
Holger Kirsten, 1981. In 1981, Holger Kirsten, a German writer on esoteric subjects, popularized the subject in his Christ Lived in India. Kirsten's ideas were among various expositions of the theory critiqued by Günter Grönbold in Jesus in Indien, Das Ende einer Legende, Jesus in India, The End of a Legend, in Munich 1985. Wilhelm Schneemädchen, by the way, that was really well pronounced earlier, Dave, states that the work of Kirsten, which builds on Ahmad and the Aquarian Gospel, is fantasy and has nothing to do with historical research. Schneemädchen states that Kirsten combines elements from various previous authors such as Notovich, Ahmadiyya beliefs, and Levi Dowling. Gerald O'Collins also states that Kirsten's work is simply the repackaging of a legend for consumption by the general public. Among texts cited by Kirsten following Andreas Faber-Kaiser is the third kanda of the Pratasigara Parvan in the Bharavishya Mahapurana, which contains discussion of Isa Masih and Muhammad. However, Indologists such as Grönbold note that this section postdates not just the Quran, but also the Mughals. Hiltebeitel, 2009, establishes 1739 as the very earliest possible date for the section.
Other theories, a number of other theories have been proposed. E.g., in 1992, in her book Jesus the Man, Dr. Barbara Thiering suggests that Jesus and Judas Iscariot had been crucified together, but Jesus survived, married Mary Magdalene, travelled around the Mediterranean Sea or area, and then died in Rome. In 1995, Kenneth Hosking also suggested that Jesus survived crucifixion, but stated that Jesus was the teacher of righteousness mentioned in the Dead Sea Scrolls, and decades later, 73 to 74 AD, died as the leader of the Jewish forces which unsuccessfully fought the Romans during the siege of Masada.
Interesting. Mormonism and claims of Jesus in the Americas. And this is really interesting, actually. According to the Book of Mormon, Jesus visited an Israelite people, led to the Americas around 600 BC to avoid the Babylonian conquest. And it goes a bit too far to explain Mormonism here. Suffice it to say that some of the lost tribes made it all the way to America, right? According to the Book of Mormon. He visited an Israelite people in America after his resurrection. Evidences of Christ in America are claimed in the legends of Viracocha in South America and Quetzalcoatl in Central America, or the feathered serpent. Both are, white, or they were white teachers. In fact, Quetzalcoatl helped bring about the demise of the great South American empires because I think it was Pizarro. It wasn't Pizarro. It was Hector. I can't think of his name now. Anyway, The Spanish arrived in South America at the time, exactly the same day that Quetzalcoatl said he would return. So they met with very little resistance. A couple hundred Spanish mercenaries managed to wipe out one of the greatest civilizations on the planet at the time. Very unfortunate timing for the South Americans. Anyway, while some Mormon scholars have interpreted Quetzalcoatl legends to represent Jesus, other historians and archaeologists believe that the story of Quetzalcoatl dates back at least 900 years before the time of Christ, with some signs pointing to 3000 or even 5000 BC. The book of 3rd Nephi states, 10, section 10, "Behold, I am Jesus Christ, whom the prophets testified shall come into the world." 12. "And it came to pass that when Jesus had spoken these words, the whole multitude fell to the earth. For they remembered that had been prophesied among them that Christ should show himself unto them after his ascension into heaven." 14. "Arise and come forth unto me, that ye may thrust your hands into my side, and also that ye may feel the prints of the nails in my hands and in my feet, that ye may know that I am the God of Israel and the God of the whole earth, and have been slain for the sins of the world."
Tourists flock to Jesus' tomb in Kashmir. This is by Sam Miller, and a belief that Jesus survived the crucifixion and spent his remaining years in Kashmir has led to a rundown shrine in Srinagar, making it firmly onto the must-visit in India tourist trail. In the back streets of downtown Srinagar is an old building known as the Rosabal Shrine, It's in a part of the city where the Indian security forces are on a regular patrol or peering out from behind checkposts made of sandbags. There are still occasional clashes with militants or stone-throwing children, but the security situation has improved in recent times and the tourists are returning. And this is Sam, when I first searched for Rosabal 2 years ago, the taxi circled around a minor Muslim tomb in a city of many mosques and mausoleums. The driver asking directions several times before he found it. That never gives you any hope, does it? Oh boy, who hasn't been there? The shrine on a street corner is a modest stone building with a traditional Kashmiri multi-tiered sloping roof. A watchman led me in and encouraged me to inspect the smaller wooden chamber within, with its trellis-like perforated screen. Through the gaps I could see a gravestone covered with a green cloth. When I returned to the shrine recently, though, it was shut, its gate padlocked, because it had attracted too many visitors. The reason? Well, according to an eclectic combination of New Age Christians, unorthodox Muslims, and fans of Da Vinci Code, the grave contains the mortal remains. That's the power of books, Meki. The mortal remains of a candidate for the most important visitor of all time to India. Crazy, Professor. Officially, the tomb is the burial site of Yusa Asaf, a medieval Muslim preacher, but a growing number of people believe that it is in fact the tomb of Jesus of Nazareth. They believe that Jesus survived the crucifixion almost 2,000 Easters ago. I like that thought. And went to live out his days in Kashmir. Well, what else could they do? They had to close it. Riaz told me, that's Sam. His family almost overlooks the shrine and hears the witheringly dismissive of the notion that Jesus was buried there. And it's the last quote. It's a story spread by local shopkeepers just because some crazy professor said it was Jesus' tomb. They thought it would be good for business. Tourists would come after all these years of violence. And then it got into The Lonely Planet. I remember watching that show. I loved it. And too many people started coming. And one foreigner, he gave me an apologetic look, broke off a bit of the tomb to take home with him. So that's why it's closed now. Oh, gotta have some. Imagine if he was dead today, people would just, break off a toe. Oh, I've got Jesus's toe. On cue, a couple of unwashed and exhausted Australians appeared. G'day, mate. Carrying the latest edition of Lonely Planet travel guide to India, which, sure enough, carried the tale of Jesus's tomb with some caveats about crackpots and blasphemy. We'll only just get this last few sentences in. They asked me to take a photo of them outside the shrine, but were not desperately disappointed that it was closed. The tomb of Jesus was just another place to tick off on their tourists in India must-visit list. I don't think we'll get to the end, Mick. You've only got 2 minutes.
We take a break here.
Yeah,
we take a break here. So look, just to be clear, right? I mean, again, this is not a show that'll give you the answer. This is just a show that'll give you some of the data. But having said all of that, I mean, the 18 years are missing. We don't know. We honestly don't know. Nobody has a good idea of what happened. A lot of people have made assumptions and suppositions, but nobody actually knows. And as mentioned earlier, when you have a vacuum like this, it will be filled with something. If you look at the parallels between Christianity or the tenets of Christianity and Buddhism, it is not that far-fetched to think that there were some Buddhist influences in the teachings of Jesus, because it was very different from the Old Testament. Old Testament was an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. Very, very different kind of moral and ethical background to the New Testament. Jesus said, turn the other cheek, love your enemy, help those that need help most, like prostitutes or tax collectors, famously. And there's the music. Hope you enjoyed the show. This is Mr. Funded Radio. Please do donate.
So support your local prostitutes and tax officers.